I spend most of my time these days traveling from industry events to colleges, talking to people. Speaking at events like this is something that I do almost several times a month, and I've been doing this for several years. Today, standing here, I'm actually feeling terribly inadequate for the kind of people who come before me and shared their experiences, and for the kind of people who are going to follow me. I'm feeling inadequate and incompetent standing here in the galaxy of people. So my request to all of you is to please bear with me. When I was asked to speak on this topic of the butterfly effect, I spent a lot of time doing some research, trying to find out what is it about the topic that I can speak which can engage all of you. And I'm not going to spend time talking about the butterfly effect. I'm not going to tell you about the small big change or the big small change. But I'm going to tie this up with a common thread that I think differentiates all this big small change or the small big change. A common thread that I've observed in the most impactful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to narrate you 3 different stories, one of them being mine, and try and tie them up as to how there is a uniqueness to the truly impactful small big changes. It's not a common thread that runs through all of them, but in the truly most impactful one, it is this common thread that I have personally noticed, and I'm going to share that experience with you. In recent times, and I'm going to share the first example that I'm going to use here is, all of you have heard of Uber. It's a company that essentially you pick up a phone and you call a cab. People have been doing this for hundreds of years. It's just that they're doing it in a very smart manner. But if you go back to how it started, it's just 2 people, the founders of the company, trying to get a cab, catch a cab, I'm told, on a winter night in Paris. They didn't find, somebody said, imagine if you pressed a button and a cab came. I think when they did that, when they went back to San Francisco and created an app to get a cab, they did not know the kind of change that they were unleashing. And to me, that's the most impactful part of the small big change. It is not that the small events, the small incidents lead to large impacts. It is that for the truly visionary people, when they make that small change, they have absolutely no idea of the change that they are causing. And that is the beauty of this butterfly effect. If you go to Wikipedia and read about the tornado, the butterfly effect, a butterfly flaps its wings in one part of the world, there's a tornado in another part. You should go and ask the butterfly whether it knows about the tornado. And the butterfly will say no, because the butterfly does not know of the impact that it is creating. And that is the truly big small change. The fact that when you unleash it, you have no idea what you're going to do. Here are 3 stories. I'm going to pick this story first because for any of you who have been following the news, politics in Tamil Nadu is right now in the news, including yesterday. Everybody is talking about it. Here's an event that happened in 1965. It happened first in 1940. It happened again in 1965. And the background to this is that after independence, the Indian government, largely run from Delhi, tried to impose Hindi as a common language all over the country. It would have led to uniformity, but it perhaps would have destroyed the uniqueness of this nation. 3/4 of the country had no problem because they all knew Hindi, but certainly the southern states didn't know, and Tamil Nadu took the lead and launched a very violent agitation called the anti-Hindi agitation. It happened in 1940. Then it died down, and Nehru at that time said, okay, no problem, we'll continue this, we're not going to impose Hindi till 1965. The problem was 25 years away, so everybody gave up. Till 25th January 1964, one day before the rule was about to change and Hindi would become common, again they launched into the agitation and unleashed violence all over the space. Into the state, every single people getting burnt, fighting, killing each other. And thereby the government said, okay, no problem, don't worry, we're not going to impose Hindi. And since then, they agreed that English will continue to be a common language connecting India. I am of the view that if that agitation had not taken place, India would not have been the soft power that it is today. India would not lead in the BPOs of the business. It wouldn't be the back office of the country, simply because the reason people have over the last 20 years used Indians to write great software and build the BPO business was because of the proficiency of English. If that agitation had not taken place, there would be no BPO industry in India. And this is one lovely story of the small, big change. They were impacting, unleashing a big change, but they had no idea what the impact was going to be. And the reason I picked this story is because I wanted to, most people don't know that this completely unrelated series of violence unleashed in Tamil Nadu would actually lead to the BPO industry. Actually, most people don't even connect it. Let me talk to you about my story. Here's what happened. In 1999, a group of friends and I came together. We said, let's launch the first e-commerce company in India, online shopping. 3 million people were using the internet. There were less than 10,000 people who used to shop online, less than 10,000 people. And all of them used to shop on Amazon.com simply because there was no e-commerce site in India. There was no payment gateway. Nobody knew how to put up a catalog online. But we, a bunch of absolutely stupid people, said, let's go put together an e-commerce company. In June 99, we left our jobs. We were all doing very well. I used to work for Wipro. I think I had a reasonably good, successful career, was enjoying myself. Recently been allocated stock options. But we threw up all of that and said, let's go build an e-commerce company. And we had no idea what e-commerce was about. We didn't know how to build a software. We didn't know how to write code. We went to software engineers who didn't know how to build a platform. So we spent all of our time during the day spending time on this website called Amazon.com and trying to figure out how can we make this happen in India. It took us months and months and months before we put together a site and we started selling music cassettes. And it was so primitive in those days that on day one when we launched, you could only buy one cassette at a time. So if you had to buy 2 cassettes, you had to play 2 different orders. But that, when we made that, even today when I look back, what is it that fascinated me? And people ask me, what is it that you do, made you go into that, like somebody said, uncharted territory? Was it the excitement of building a large industry? No. And we're talking of a small, big change where the person who unleashes the change has no idea. So we had no idea what's going to happen in 2017, and you can see those numbers. You had absolutely no idea. For me, the fascination was every time I would go to a shop, and anybody else in this country at that time, whenever they would go to a shop and buy something, they would physically meet the shopkeeper. In our generation, all of us have been brought up with a very healthy suspicion of shopkeepers. We all believe that the shopkeeper is out to cheat the shopper. And thereby, you would never buy from a shop where you would never meet the shopkeeper. No customer would buy. And that's what really fascinated me. It was not about building payment gateways. It was not about doing electronic shopping. It was not about online transactions. It is not about what people talk about saying digital banega India. Nothing. It is the fact that can I put together a shop where we will be able to sell stuff to a shopper without ever meeting that person. To me, that was the biggest challenge. Imagine putting together a shop where I will sell stuff to a customer and never meet him or her. To me, that was a challenge. At the end of our first year, we did business of about 6 lakh rupees. 6 lakh rupees was the size of the entire industry because we were the industry. This year, 275 million smartphones. There were no smartphones in those days. 400 million users, 50 million online shoppers. And according to the Goldman Sachs report, the electronic commerce B2C market in India this year would be 700,000 crore rupees. And we had no idea, which is what I was telling you, that the real, true, impactful big changes are when you unleash it, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. So if anybody stands and said, when I did this, I was able to visualize 20 years later that this would happen, I think most of them are lying because they have no idea. The last story, all of us, I picked a story which will fascinate all of you. Cricket, everybody loves it. Every 4 years, we follow the World Cup. We want our team to win. Now every 2 years, because there's a 50-over World Cup, there's a 20-over World Cup, and we always want our team. The country goes crazy. But the first 50-over game, limited overs game, happened in January 5th, 1971 at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. And it was not a one-day game as such. For those of you who don't know the story, it was actually a test match being played between England and Australia. The first 3 days of the test had been washed out by rain. On day 4, they walked out, it was sunny, and they realized that they could now start the game, except that irrespective of what happened, there's no way the game would have a result. So somebody came up with a bright idea saying, instead of starting a 5-day game for 2 days and starting and knowing it's a draw, why don't we just play 1 day and you take 40 overs, I'll take 40 overs. In those days in Australia, I don't know how many of you know, an over had 8 balls. So one team will play 40 overs of 8 balls each. The other team would play 40 overs of another 8 balls each, and whoever won would be declared the winner. It was for fun. Today, it's led to the largest globalization of the game, and billions of people in just this one country every 2 years wear blue t-shirts and said we have to win. That's the other butterfly effect. So 3 different stories, completely unrelated. One in electronic commerce, one in a political, social agitation leading to the BPO industry, and third is a fun between 2 countries leading to a very large part. 3 completely different things, all tied by the common effect that I told about, which is that whenever a large, big change is about to be unleashed, the people who do that actually have no idea. And that's the beauty of the butterfly effect. Like I told you, I started with something, I'm going to end with something. Every time a butterfly flaps its wings in one part of the world, in another part, there is a tornado. But the butterfly does not know that the tornado is being unleashed. That's why it's called the butterfly effect. I started by saying that I'm feeling very inadequate I actually do this for a living. I go up on stage and talk. I continue to feel inadequate today. Great galaxy of experiences and speakers before, bigger galaxy to follow. I'm feeling very incompetent. I'm feeling very inadequate. Every time I finish a speech, I hope people will stand up and give me a standing ovation. I'm going to request that today, but this time I think the ovation is for all of you, that despite the beauty that you're going to see today, you've managed to sit through my talk. Thank you so much.